Hello, everyone. Today we're going to be starting a new unit on functions. It's unit 5, but you'll notice there's a little bit of a typo throughout the packet. It says unit 3. We switched up the order this year, so just pay attention to the lesson round. So this is lesson 1. It's an intro to functions. There was an intro video that you should have watched earlier this week. If you haven't done that, please do. It's not in the packet. Today we're going to just talk a little bit about what a function looks like and also how we can represent a function. So a function is basically a rule or an equation that converts an input to one and only one output. That's important. So basically, I'm going to give you an x value. You're going to put it into this function machine, and then out will come one and only one y value. For example, if I say square, and my function rule is how many sides, my output would be 4. All right, but we're going to focus on equations and things like that. So one way that we can represent it is using an equation. So it might look like this: y equals 3x plus 7. Or they might use function notation, which looks like that. F of x is how it would be pronounced. So it's a function of x such that you take 3 times x and then you add 7. All right, that's one way you could represent it. You could represent it using a graph. So just remember, you have your x-axis, your horizontal axis, and your y-axis. You can take this equation and plot a bunch of points. You can represent it with a table. And honestly, the graphs and the tables are the two that are going to be used the most. All right, a table of values. Or it could be a verbal description. All right, so let's take a look at a couple examples. Domain and range are 2 terms that are going to come up today, but also at the end of the chapter, we'll dig a little bit more deeper into what those look like. So a domain is basically just a list of all your input values, so all of your x's that are being used. And range is a list of all your output values, which are all your y's that are being used. All right, so the x values are what you put into the function. It does this little thing, and out comes a value. All right. So I apologize, there's another little typo here. This first example is not, I meant to put a space here. This should be number 2 down here for the A, B, C, and D. So with this first example, we're going to kind of put it over here. All right, so I can give you a situation, and we can create a bunch of points. And just remember, each point is x and then y, your input, then your output. All right, at last week's track meet, if you came in first place, you got 5 points. So I can represent that as a point. Could be the point 1, 5. Second place got 3 points. So that would be the point 2, 3. And when you're writing a point, make sure you have the parentheses. Third place got 2 points, and fourth place got 1. So third place got 2 points, 3, 2, and fourth place got 1, 4, 1. So there's a set of points. And typically when you're listing points, we'll talk about this, you put them in little squiggly brackets. If you can't draw the brackets perfectly, don't worry about it. You can just draw a little squiggly line. You could represent it as a table. So your x goes in the left and your y goes in the right. So 1, 5, 2, 3, 3, 2, and 4, 1. You could plot those points, which I'm not going to do with this example, but you can also create what's called a mapping diagram. So basically, you look at your inputs. All right, so you have your domain, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just going to list them here. I'm going to put a little circle around them, a little oval there. And then my output's 5, 3, 2, 1. With a mapping diagram, if you see something repeat, you don't write it twice, you just draw arrows. So basically, 1 would go to 5, 1 gets 5 points, second gets 3 points, third gets 2 points, fourth gets 1 point. That's a mapping diagram. So right there's 3 different ways, 4 if you look at the verbal description, to represent the same situation. All right, so let's do another example. So part A, we have a list of ordered pairs. All right, it's just a fancy word for points. We're going to make a table, a graph, and a mapping diagram from those. All right, so our table, pretty simple. And again, the table is what you're going to use the most. Always goes X and then Y. List each point, 0, 4, 2, 5, 3, 5, 5, 1. Okay? Now, when you go to list your mapping diagram, these are your X's and these are your Y's. Okay? This is your domain. This is your range. So you're going to list the numbers you have in your domain. If there's one that repeats, don't write it down. When you're writing a table, you list every single point. But when you're doing a mapping diagram, notice how this 5 shows up twice? We're only going to write 1 5 in there. So 0, 2, 3, 5 for our domain. And for our range, 4, 5, 5, 1. So it's just going to be 4, 5, 1. And then use arrows to map. Okay, you're basically drawing a map. Follow the arrow to tell me what goes to what. So 0 goes to 4. 2 goes to 5. 3 goes to 5. And 5 goes to 1. There's a mapping diagram. If you wanted to graph those points, 0, 4. 4 is in the Y's position there, so it's going to be on the Y axis. So if you're not sure where it goes, it'll be right there. 3 goes to 5, so find 3 on the X, up to 5. Oh, ignore that line here. Okay, my tools don't want to work. We'll just use this. Usually it'll have the option for a delete, but we'll just kind of slide it over here. Have to get used to it. I'm trying a new program out, so bear with me. All right, so let's go back to this. Oops. So 3 went to 2, 5, 3, 5, and 5, 1. So 2, 5 is up here. 3, 5 is up here. And then 5, 1 over 5 up 1 right here. All right, so different ways to represent a situation. All right, now your domain is just a list of your X's, and range is a list of your Y's. D comes before R in the alphabet, just like X comes before Y. That could be one way to remember. If you have a better way, please share. I'm always open to new suggestions. So for your domain, same thing. Don't list something more than once. We have 0, 3, 2, and 5. 0, 3, 2, 5. And then again, we're going to put some brackets around it. That's your domain. And the range that's being used is 4, 5, and 1. Okay, just a list of numbers. All right, let's do some examples. All right, so the input and the output, or your X and your Y, or your domain and range, we're going to list the ordered pairs shown in the mapping diagram. All right, so if there's 4 arrows, there's 4 points. So the first point would be from 0 to 12, so that point would be 0, 12. Ignore my handwriting here. Your next point would be 2, 10, and you might be able to move through this faster. 4, 8, and again, notice each set of points has parentheses around it, and then 6, 6. And again, since it's a list, we're going to use brackets to show the beginning and end of our list. On this one, there's only 2 outputs, but 1 goes to 1, so that's, 4 different points. 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 2, 4, 2. That's okay. So 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 2, 4, 2. All right. Now, going the other way, you can take a mapping diagram from a set of points. Again, we've been doing this. We did this on the front page, so if you want to try this as I'm doing it, that's fine. Let's look at your domain first. You have 0, 2, 3, 5. Nothing repeats, so I'm just going to write 0, 2, 3, 5. For your range, you have 4, 6, 5, 9. Nothing repeats. 4, 6, 5, 9. Pretty basic mapping diagram. So 0 goes to 4, 2 goes to 6, 3 goes to 5, and 5 goes to 9. That's it. Again, if something, if 2 different points went to 4, instead of putting 2 4s in there, you just use 2 different arrows. All right, last one. Let's cover all of our bases. So we're going to create a mapping diagram, a table, and a graph, and then state the domain and range. You can find the domain and range just by looking up here. So your domain is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And again, you could put it down here if you want. It's a list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we put commas in the brackets. Now your range is 0, 0, 0, 2, 2. So your range is just 0, 2. Again, you don't put multiples. We're going to use our arrows. So your range is just 2 elements, 0 and 2. And I'm not putting parentheses. It's not a point. It's a list of numbers. So that's why we're using those brackets. Okay, use your arrows now to say what happens. So 1 goes to 0, 2 goes to 0, 3 goes to 0, 4 goes to 2, 5 goes to 2. There's your mapping diagram. Your table, X, Y. This should be easy. Just take those points and list them vertically. Right now they're horizontal. So 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, 0, 4, 2, 5, 2. And now we can draw it graphically because sometimes it's easier to see what's happening on a graph. Remember, your horizontal axis is X and your vertical is Y. So we had 1, 0, which is here, 2, 0, 3, 0, and then 4, 2. So over 4, up 2, and then 5, 2, over 5, up 2. Funny looking little graph there. We're going to see all sorts of different kinds. All right, so that's how you represent a function. Next lesson, we'll get into determining whether or not these are functions or just relationships between 2 numbers. Make sure you let me know if you have any questions. Stop by the math lab. Have a great day.